Chapter 4. The recording. Arc 34 had layers. Most citizens lived their entire lives inside the upper decks of the Ark: bright corridors, clean habitation sectors, organized civic plazas, schools, gardens, and transit rails that connected everything together like arteries through a mechanical city. But beneath those layers were older places. Cargo sectors. Maintenance grids. Archive vaults. Industrial decks that had been built centuries earlier during the Ark's construction and slowly forgotten as the ship evolved. Those places felt different. The lights were dimmer. The air smelled of metal and recycled dust. And the hum of the Ark's engine sounded louder there, like the heartbeat of some enormous creature sleeping beneath the walls. That was where Artemis, Nova, and Rhiann found themselves that night. Deep in Cargo Archive Deck 19. The deck had once been used to catalog shipments during the Ark's early migration decades, maybe centuries, ago. Now most of it sat unused. Cargo management systems had moved to newer digital networks long ago. What remained here were rows of sealed storage racks, old computer stations, and dim maintenance lighting that flickered occasionally as if the Ark itself had forgotten the room existed. Rhiann glanced nervously down the long aisle of storage units. "You're sure we're allowed to be here?" he asked quietly. Nova snorted. "If we were allowed to be here, it wouldn't be interesting." Artemis walked slowly ahead of them, scanning the walls. Old systems always fascinated him. Older meant less secure. And less secure meant easier to explore. "This deck hasn't been maintained in years," he said. "How can you tell?" Rhiann asked. Artemis pointed at the ceiling. "Lighting grid is running on autonomous backup. No maintenance tags on the conduits. That means the sector's been off the primary service rotation." Nova leaned against a cargo crate. "In normal language. No one checks this place." "Perfect." They continued moving deeper into the archive. The aisles stretched out like a maze of forgotten history. Old shipping containers. Broken terminals. Crates labeled with faded Terran registry codes. Rhiann stopped at one console, brushing dust off the screen. "Look at this thing," he murmured. The console was bulky compared to modern terminals. Older interface ports. Manual access panels. "This is original Ark construction hardware," Rhiann said excitedly. Artemis crouched beside it. "Yeah. Probably 3 generations behind current systems." "Can you power it?" Artemis examined the panel. "Maybe." Nova wandered farther down the aisle while the two of them studied the console. That was when Artemis noticed something strange. A section of wall paneling a few meters away looked slightly different from the rest. The metal seams didn't line up perfectly. He stood. Walked closer. Then brushed dust across the surface. Hidden beneath the grime was a narrow access hatch. Rhiann looked up. "What is it?" Artemis knelt and opened the panel. Inside sat a terminal unit recessed into the wall. The screen was dark. "Power disconnected." "Old storage terminal," Artemis said. Nova returned from the end of the aisle. "What did you find?" Artemis studied the wiring. "This system's been intentionally shut down." Rhiann crouched beside him. "Why would someone power down a data terminal instead of just deleting files?" Artemis's eyes narrowed slightly. "Because someone didn't want the system accessed through the network." He connected a small maintenance cable from the panel to the terminal's auxiliary port. The screen flickered. Then slowly powered on. The interface was ancient compared to modern Ark systems. Blocky menus. Simple command prompts. Security protocols from an earlier era. Nova leaned against the wall. "How long will it take you to break in?" Artemis didn't even look up. "Already in." Rhiann blinked. "What?" The encryption is outdated. The system opened. A data directory appeared on the screen. Except there was only one file. Artemis frowned. That's strange. Rhiannon leaned closer. Only one entry. Nova crossed her arms. Maybe the rest were deleted. Artemis moved the cursor over the file. No file name. No description. No metadata. Just a timestamp. He froze. 8 years ago. The exact date flickered on the screen. The night his parents died. For a moment the room seemed to grow very quiet. Nova noticed his expression immediately. What's wrong? Artemis didn't answer. His fingers hovered above the terminal keys. Then slowly, he opened the file. The screen went black for half a second. Then the recording began. The video feed flickered to life in grainy monochrome. A security camera angle. Mounted high on the wall of a maintenance tunnel. Artemis recognized the environment instantly. Industrial conduit lines ran along the walls. Pressure valves. Cooling pipes. Maintenance lights spaced along the ceiling. Then two figures stepped into view. Artemis felt his heart stop. His parents. His mother stood near a pressure regulator panel adjusting a toolkit. His father knelt beside a conduit pipe inspecting a seal. They looked exactly as Artemis remembered them. Focused. Calm. Talking quietly as they worked. The audio track was muted, but he could almost hear their voices anyway. Then another figure entered the tunnel. The person wore a black uniform. Tall. Broad-shouldered. The figure's face was hidden behind a dark mask. Ark Authority insignia marked the shoulders. Artemis leaned closer to the screen. Nova stepped forward slowly. Artemis. The figure approached his parents. His father turned slightly. As if someone had just spoken. Then. The masked figure raised a pistol. 2 shots. The flashes lit the tunnel in brief white bursts. Artemis's mother collapsed instantly. His father staggered back against the conduit wall before sliding to the floor. The entire sequence lasted less than 3 seconds. Artemis felt his stomach drop. His pulse roared in his ears. The masked figure stepped closer to the camera. For a moment the angle shifted slightly. Just enough. The directorate insignia on the shooter's chest came into view. A silver emblem. Directorate Corp. Then the figure reached up. The camera feed cut instantly. The recording ended. The terminal screen went dark again. The cargo archive deck was silent. No one spoke. Nova looked between Artemis and the screen. Artemis. Rhiannon swallowed hard. But Artemis didn't hear them. He stared at the blank monitor. His hands trembled slightly against the terminal frame. For 8 years he had believed the official report. Maintenance accident. Pressure explosion. Fatal engineering failure. But the truth had just played out in front of him. His parents had not died in an accident. They had been murdered. Executed. By someone wearing the uniform of the Ark's most powerful governing body. Someone had killed them. And then someone had buried the evidence. Artemis slowly lifted his head. His eyes were no longer shocked. They burned with something colder. Something sharper. Fury. Someone on this Ark murdered my parents. Nova and Rhiannon exchanged a glance. Neither of them had ever heard Artemis speak like that before. He turned back toward the terminal. The faint glow of the screen reflected across his face. And I'm going to find them. Somewhere inside Ark 34. A directorate officer had committed murder. And Artemis Golmir had just declared war on the truth buried inside the Ark. This ends Chapter 4. If you enjoyed this video and want more, please like, comment, and subscribe for more content.